In one of my song tutorial videos, I taught the song a full step lower than the original and pointed out that if you want to play it in the original key, you could just use the chords and patterns that I was going to teach and place a capo on the second fret. Well, a fellow YouTuber commented that you could also just learn the song in a different key and not rely on a capo. And that's called transposing a song. Anyway, that comment kind of sparked a mini discussion on the matter with others chiming in. Well, this particular comment helped me to realize that there may be a number of guitarists who have not learned the value and use of a capo, or who do not know how to transpose a song to another key, or who aren't sure when to use one over the other. In this video, my objective is to bring my perspective to this discussion, and I hope it gives you some things to think about in this regard. Things you can use to become a better guitarist. Now, before I address this in detail, let me just say that if you're willing to watch my videos and then take the time to comment, I am very thankful for both. I mean, even if the comment offers criticism or critique, I'll generally approach such comments assuming that you're actually trying to help me or help others who may watch the video, and I very much appreciate that. So here's my request of you. Please watch the whole video and really think about what I'm going to share. And if you have some thoughts you think will help the community of musicians in this regard, please, if you have the time, share those thoughts in the comments. Look, I want to learn how to become a better guitarist just as much as you do, so let's help each other, shall we? Now, in this video, I'm going to address the topic with the method of question and answer, with lots of examples. So, fair warning, this video will probably be a bit lengthy, so I'll try to remember to put timestamps in the video. All right, let's get to it. A capo is a device used on string instruments, in this case a guitar, and it functions as if you are temporarily moving the nut of the guitar, that's this white thing right here, up the fretboard. And by the way, I'm not 100% sure of the correct pronunciation. It could be capo or capo or capo. I've called it capo since I was a kid, so that's what I'll continue to call it in this video, okay? Now, there are different models of capos, but all of your standard capos clamp down on the guitar neck and are placed behind a fret of your choosing to effectively shorten the string length, which in turn raises the pitch of each string. I mean, here's a quick demonstration. These silver things right here, these nickel silver things on my guitar, they're called frets, and I'm guessing all of you already knew that. You place the capo behind a fret, and it uniformly raises the pitch of all the strings the same distance, like this. You can hear the pitch go higher. One of the primary reasons to use a capo is to change the key of a song, but still play the same chord shapes and voicings. By using a capo, you don't have to relearn how to play a song, and you can still accomplish your objective of changing the key. And folks, for this reason alone, the capo is a handy tool. I taught myself how to play an old folk song called "The Water is Wide" in the style of James Taylor, one of my favorite players. Now, James puts a capo on the 3rd fret and plays the song in the key of F. And what that means is that he's actually playing, D forms, but with the capo he's actually playing in F. I like how that sounds, but I found, at least when my voice is warm and I'm not sick, that the key of G suits me better. Instead of relearning how to play the tune, because I want to keep that James Taylor flavor with the chords and the voicings that he uses, all I need to do is to put the capo on the 5th fret, and that allows me to accomplish my objective. Let me show you what I mean. So as I said, James takes the capo and he puts it on the 3rd fret and plays it like this. The water is wide, I can't cross over, and either have I wings to fly. All right, so I can sing it in that key, but when my voice is warmed up, unlike now, it sounds better for me 2 frets higher. Hopefully I can do this. The water is wide, I can't cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. So that's a good example of sometimes a capo comes in very handy. Another reason a capo can come in handy is if you have some difficulty with chords that are formed over multiple frets and that really stretch out your hands and your fingers. In that case, assuming the change in key works, or even if it doesn't matter what key you're playing in, placing the capo higher up the fretboard just may allow you to play difficult chords with greater ease. There's another song by James Taylor that he wrote called Secret of Life. Now, in order to play that song correctly, you must navigate a few chords, one in particular, I'll show you in a moment, that stretches over 5 frets. James wrote the song and plays it with a capo on the 3rd fret. Now, while this is doable for playing those chords cleanly, it does have some difficulty. An alternative for me to perform the song would be to raise it a full step by putting the capo on the 5th fret. I can still sing in that range, and the chord difficulty is actually reduced quite a bit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, James takes the capo and puts it on the 3rd fret when he plays the song that he wrote. And he plays this chord. It's an add 9 chord. Really tough to play. But if I take the capo and play the song higher, I can play that add 9 chord. It should be a little easier. I mean, it's just a tough chord. But because the frets are a little bit closer, that might be a solution to help me to play this song live without, with the least amount of mistakes, we'll put it that way. So that's another good reason why you might use a capo. Potentially it could make harder chords with a big stretch a little easier because the frets are closer up here. It's not quite as much of a stretch. A third reason for which you might find yourself using a capo is when you come across a song of written music that calls for it. For example, there's a really cool tune written by Harry Chapin. It's called Cats in the Cradle. You might be familiar with it. But in order to play this song correctly, especially using the chords that Harry Chapin used, and in the original key, you must use a capo. You can't get away from it. Harry used a capo, and this song requires it. So when Harry Chapin plays the song, he wrote the song, it requires a capo on the 8th fret. He uses an A form, that makes it in the key of F. And so if you want it to sound like Harry Chapin when you're playing the song, you must have a capo. And it sounds something like this. And on and on. So I couldn't really get that sound anywhere else unless I use a capo and play the forms that he plays. If the music calls for it, sometimes you need a capo. Now, the primary reason that I use a capo is to keep specific chord voicings when changing keys. Okay, just in case you don't know, let's answer the question, what is a voicing? Okay, well, a voicing is simply the way notes are arranged in a chord. You can have chords that go by the same name, have the same notes in them, but they sound different simply because the notes are arranged differently. And that's what it means to have a different voicing. If you want to keep a particular voicing while changing keys, you more often than not need a capo. Let's say I wanted to vamp over the chords A minor 9 and a D minor 9, and preferred the following voicings. And they sound pretty cool, right? Now, if I wanted to change the key by raising it 1.5 steps, that would make the chords a C minor 9 and an F minor 9. Now I can play those chords like this. And these chord shapes sound pretty good, but they don't sound the same as the voicings that I used when I was playing the A minor 9 and the D minor 9. But if I take a capo and put it here, up 1.5 steps, so that's three half steps or 3 frets. Here they are. And those sound the way I want it to sound. Listen again to the difference. This is a C minor 9. And this is an F minor 9. They both sound really cool. But I wanted it to be like this. And I really can't get those voicings exactly like that. It would be very difficult without a capo. So to maintain certain voicings, you need a capo. Now, sticking with the same reason along the same lines, sometimes a guitarist will use a specific voicing or voicings that just simply cannot be duplicated by transposing. I mean, you must use a capo to keep the same voicings if you want to change the key. A good example of this is Dan Fogelberg's, leader of the band. He wrote it in the key of G, but what if I wanted to play it in the key of B flat and transpose it? Very difficult to do. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when Dan Fogelberg recorded the song, he played it in the key of G. Sounds something like this. Now, if I was to transpose that up to B flat, say because I was playing it for a female singer and she needed it a little higher, if I just try to transpose it to B flat, maybe it'd be something like this. I can't even do it. But if I take a capo and I put it a step and a half higher, play the same chords, same voicings, it's going to sound pretty good, and now the singer can sing it. Capo's come in pretty handy. Another reason to have a capo with you is when you're jamming with others. Let's just say you get together with a couple of other guys or other girls, and you're all playing the same chords to some song, and you're playing them in exactly the same place, the same way. You know, there's value in that, sure, but it can sound a little bit busy, even muddy, because you're all sort of competing with the same frequencies. Well, by using a capo, sometimes you can change, where those chords are played up the fretboard and thus improve the sound of your collective guitars. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say everybody is playing G, C, and D. All right, and you want to change it up a little. Still play the same chords, but you want it to sound with different frequencies so you're actually complementing each other and not competing with each other. If you take a capo, put it on the 5th fret, and play the forms D, G, and A, in reality, you're playing G, C, and D. Listen to this again. Same chords. But now that they're up a higher frequency, thanks to this tool called a capo, I'm now complementing the other players, and it should sound bigger, it should sound sweeter. Another good reason to use a capo is when you're jamming with others. All right, a final reason that I can think of to have a capo is when you want to be just a bit creative. You see, there's a tuning for the guitar called drop D tuning. It's when you tune the lowest string, it's an E, down to a D, a full step, while leaving the other strings, regularly tuned. What's cool is that you can sort of achieve this effect by using a capo without actually tuning your lower E to a D. And there's a slight catch to that, but let me show you what I mean. Okay, so in order to accomplish sort of a drop D tuning effect, but with a capo and never tuning down your string, is to take the capo from underneath, and what you want to do is just clamp it onto the top 5 strings. Leave this E. You're leaving the E untouched. Effectively, it's like, because I'm raising these 5 up, it's sort of like I'm leaving them alone and lowering the E. But I'm not really. I'm not detuning my guitar in any way. By putting this here, I have the same type of tuning, but here's the catch. I've got to play songs in the key of E. So you can only use it creatively in one way to achieve this. But there are some songs that have this type of tuning that use the key of E. For example, Jason Mraz's I Won't Give Up. Beautiful song. When I look into your eyes, it's like watching the night sky or a beautiful sunrise. There's so much they hold. That sounds so cool when I play a D form, but now 2 frets up because of this capo. It's actually an E, and I use this E bass. Beautiful, right? Another song is Please Come to Boston by Dave Loggins, who I think is Kenny Loggins' cousin, but uses the same type of tuning. It's actually in the key of E. I'm sure they actually tuned their low E down and then put a capo on the 2nd fret on all of them. But you can do it this way and be real creative. Please come to Boston for the springtime. Moved up here with some friends and they've got lots of room. You can sell your paintings on the sidewalk by a cafe where I hope to be working soon. Please come to Boston, she said no. Ah, but you come home to me. I mean, that sounds so cool to have this low E with a high E form. And that's a creative way to use a capo. All right, so those are 6 reasons why I think it's important to have and use a capo. But now let's talk about transposing. Transposing is basically the process of changing the chords of a song to a different key while maintaining the same relationship between those chords. Now, there's more than one way that musicians transpose music, but especially if you've never done it before, let me show you what I think is the easiest method. In Western music, there are 12 notes, often called the chromatic scale. And just to state them alphabetically, those notes are, beginning with A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G, and G sharp or A flat. Each of those notes are exactly 1/2 step in distance from the note either before it or after it. And on the guitar, a 1/2 step is the equivalent distance of 1 fret. So just to give you an example, let's take this note A. It is the distance of a 1/2 step or 1 fret from A flat or G sharp, or also from A sharp or B flat. All right, now in transposing, in order to maintain the same relationship between chords, you must observe two rules. All right, so memorize these. First, you must transpose each chord by using the exact same distance. I'll elaborate on that in a moment, and I'll give you an example. The second thing you must do is you must keep the same quality of chord for your corresponding transposed chords. So just to give a couple examples of what I mean by that, if a chord starts off as a major chord, when you transpose it, it must remain a major chord. That's what I mean by the quality of a chord. If it starts off as a minor chord, it must remain a minor chord. A minor 7, and so on. Let's illustrate with a simple example. Now here's a version of the classic song Blue Moon in the key of C. So the song Blue Moon, we're going to use C, A minor, D minor 7, and G. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a beat in my heart, without a love of my own. Okay, so I want to sing that though where it's higher so I can, it suits my vocal range better. And something like the key of E would be better. So all I'd have to do is take my chord. My first chord is a C or C major. When you have a major chord, you don't actually have to say major. You can just say C or G or whatever it is, and it's understood that it's a major. But my C major chord, in order to get to an E, I've got to start with this C note and actually go up to an E. So let's see how many steps that, or rather how many frets that is, how many half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go, that's an E. All right, so that means for every chord, if I want to transpose, I've got to go the same distance, 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps or 4 frets, in order to start with an E. What are the next 3 chords? Well, remember my second chord was an A minor. So let's start with an A, and let's go up 4 frets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that is a C sharp, so it's C sharp minor. Remember, I have to maintain the same quality of chord. It started as minor, needs to stay minor, but now transpose up the same distance as the first chord, 4 half steps or 4 frets, to C sharp minor. Okay, let's keep going. The third chord was D minor 7. So I'll take a D note and I'll go up 4 half steps or 4 frets. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is an F sharp. Okay, so I need an F sharp minor 7. Retain the same quality of chord, minor 7, but now I've transposed up those 4 frets to an F sharp. So here's an F sharp minor 7. And the last chord was a G. All right, let's go up 4 frets or 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a B. So my last chord is going to be a B or a B major, same thing, and that would be here. So my 4 chords are going to be this. And you can probably hear the relationship is maintained. If I sing it, you'll hear it all works. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a beat in my heart, without a love of my own. That's transposing. Remember the two rules. Move every chord up exactly the same distance and maintain the same quality of chord. Now you might be asking, is there any way to transpose songs more quickly than counting the same distance for every chord and keeping the same quality of chord? And the answer is yes. And while I'm sure there are other ways to do this, I'm going to recommend listening to specific chord progressions and the relationships of those chords to one another, so that you can recognize those progressions and then be able to transpose them to any key. There are certainly other things you can do, like working on intervals and such like, but I'm going to emphasize chord progressions. Now to do this, you'll want to increase your understanding of chords in general and of diatonic chords in any key in particular. And what I mean by diatonic chords, if you're not familiar with that term, are chords that come from the same key, or to put it in simple terms, chords that are part of the same family. For example, a common progression in just about every kind of music is called a 2-5-1. And when considering the diatonic chords in a major key, that would represent the 2 chord, which is a minor chord or a minor 7th chord, the 5 chord, which is generally a 7th chord, and the 1 chord, which is a major chord or major 7th chord. For example, let's take the 2-5-1 progression of the diatonic 7th chords in the key of C. And those chords would be D minor 7, G7, and C major 7. So I can take the diatonic 7th chords in the key of C and just play them for you. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, also called B half diminished, and then it brings me right back to the first chord, which was C major 7. Okay, so if you kind of followed along with those chords, there were 7 of them. If I number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 2 chord was the D minor 7, the 5 chord was the G7, and the 1 chord, the very first chord I started with, was a C major 7. That's what a 2-5-1 progression is. And it is extremely common in music. You've heard it before. You've heard that. And the idea is to get used to that progression and so many other progressions by playing it over and over again and putting it into your ear so that it doesn't matter what chord you start on, what minor chord. You're going to be able to parse out or transpose a 2-5-1 progression. And a good way to do it is to sing it. And the way you sing it is you want to really sing the root. So on the 2, D, 2, the G, 5, and then the 1. 1, 2, 5, 1. Now, if I've got that in my head, it doesn't matter where I begin. I should be able to do any 2-5-1. So let's do it. This is not planned. I didn't pick out any minor chords. I'm just going to put my finger somewhere. So what if I did this? B minor 7. 2, 5, 1. Wow, out of my range, but you got the idea. I heard the chords. I knew what was coming up next. How about G minor? 2, 5, 1. Or 2, 5, 1. Or how about, I don't know, how about here? F minor 7. 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. So the idea is, and not only this progression, but all the progressions you might come across. Hear them, hear how the chords are related to one another. Memorize the progressions, and then when you hear them in songs, you'll be able to transpose them really to any key, sort of like I just did. Work on that. The primary reason to transpose a song is to put that song in a key that best suits whoever's singing it or whoever's playing it. What if you were hired to do a gig, say an hour of background music, and you're doing it with another singer? And when you get together to practice, you agree on songs that you mutually know, that you both know. All right. When you try to play them in your key, you find out that that doesn't work for your singer's vocal range. So you'd have to find the key that is most comfortable to your partner and then transpose the song so that you can work together. You might say, well, I've got a capo to help me do that. Well, sometimes using a capo just doesn't work or doesn't sound very good. The song can sound a little off if the key is too high. This would be a good time to forego a capo and just transpose the song. Let me give you an example. And the song I'm talking about is Carole King's It's Too Late. I recently did a guitar tutorial on it. But anyway, she wrote it for herself to play in A minor and D. Those are the two primary chords. You stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. You see, that's a little high for me. There's something wrong here, there can be no denying. One of us. That's pretty high, right? But what if I wanted to change that to something more comfortable for me, like starting on E minor? If I use a capo, I would have to come all the way up here to the 7th fret. But listen to how the guitar sounds. Right? It's so high, it almost sounds like it's on helium. You know, like, remember the Chipmunks? Anyway, forget that. But it doesn't quite sound right to me. What if I, though, transpose instead of use a capo and just play an E minor to an A? Stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. There's something wrong here, there can be no denying. One of us is changing. Oh, let's see what it'd be. Maybe we just can't try. Wrong lyrics. And it's too late, baby, now it's too late. So that's transposing the song. And by the way, that's an example of me hearing what chords would come next because I'm just so used to the progressions. That's a good example of when transposing supersedes using a capo. Also, what if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have a capo? Say you're invited to someone's house and they have a guitar sitting out, and then one of your friends says, "Don't you play the guitar? Come on, play for us." All right, you could find yourself in a situation where you're called upon to play a song in a specific key so they can sing it, and you're not used to playing it in that key. Having the skill to transpose is going to save the day. So what do I hope guitarists will take away from this discussion? First, surely you can see that there is a place for both using a capo and a place for transposing a song. That being the case, why not become proficient at both? So that when it comes time to play a song in any particular situation, you can serve the song. And what I mean by that is you can do what's best for the song. If that means using a capo, have one handy and know how to use it. If that means transposing, then develop and cultivate that skill so you're ready. Do whatever is necessary to best serve the song. Second, by all means, do not be afraid to use whatever tools you can to help the music sound as good as it can. A capo is just a tool to help you achieve certain objectives. I mean, in that regard, it's no different from a pick or a guitar slide or anything else along the same lines. They are all just tools that you can use to serve the song and to help the singer. And third, don't learn one to the exclusion of the other. I mean, if you just use a capo and never learn to transpose, you're going to find yourself in situations where, using the capo just doesn't sound good, as we've already illustrated, and thus you limit yourself and your ability as a guitarist. Or vice versa. I mean, if all you do is transpose and you shun capos because, maybe you consider yourself a musical purist of sorts, you'll not be able to play some songs that absolutely require a capo. And in a sense, you're actually limiting your ability as a guitarist. Bottom line, my hope is that this discussion will motivate you to work at becoming proficient at both using a capo and transposing songs. Okay, that's my 2 cents on the matter. I mean, I hope you found it thought-provoking, and if you'd like to share your thoughts to help the community of guitarists who will be watching this video, please do so. I look forward to reading what you have to say. Thanks for swinging by. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and join the team. Check out my previous videos and get ready because there's more to come. Thanks again, and keep that guitar in your hands, as that's going to help you to get better. See ya.